So for today, for writing, we are going to work on editing run-on sentences. Okay, our learning target is I can check and edit my writing for run-on sentences. And our success criteria, the things we want you to be able to do, is check your work carefully for run-on sentences. That you understand that after each sentence there needs to be a period or some sort of punctuation mark. And that your writing is easy to read. Okay, so why are we doing this? Because we're getting ready to finish this writing piece. It's almost done. So when I go to edit, which I will soon, with a partner, they need to be able to check for ending, like the ends of my sentences. They need to be able to check for punctuation. And one of the biggest problems are run-on sentences. And sometimes your partner will be able to catch that for you, other times they won't. So we always want to edit twice, just like we want to revise a bunch of times as well. So today is going to be your first process of editing, which is just looking for those punctuation marks, okay? And what punctuation marks should we be using? These ones, okay? A period for at the end of a sentence is a statement, right? Usually librarians are ready to help you, period. Or a question mark. If I'm asking a question, do you want to know ways that they are similar? Question mark. Or an exclamation point. Then keep reading. So if it's anything exciting, I might use an exclamation point. Okay? So again, I'm checking and editing my writing for these run-on sentences. Well, what is a run-on sentence? A run-on sentence is when one or more sentences are squished together and pretending to be one sentence, okay? When one or more thought is written as a sentence, okay? They are oftentimes hard to read and confusing. So how do I check for these things? You're going to ask yourself the following questions. Are there a bunch of ands? And this, and that, and something else. Are there a bunch of ands? And then you are going to ask yourself, are you running out of breath in between these sentences? I should only be breathing every time there is a punctuation mark. Okay? Meaning if I'm doing that method, right? Am I running out of breath? If I'm running out of breath, chances are you're missing some punctuation marks and you have some run-on sentences. And the third thing, are there more? I used the wrong there. I apologize. Are there more than one thought in a sentence? Is there more than one thought in a sentence? Okay? And does it make sense? Oftentimes when we have a lot of ands, stuff stops making sense. And you'll see that in a little bit. Okay? So I have my first few pieces of writing. Okay? So I'm going to ask myself first, are there a bunch of ands? So I'm going to read and I'm going to look for a bunch of ands. One time I went with my family on a camping trip. It was so much fun and we got to go kayaking, hiking, and bike riding. It was the best trip ever. Do you and your family ever go on trips? I didn't see much ands. I saw one, but I think that that's okay. One is okay. Was I running out of breath? Well, let's try again and see. So you're going to hear me breathe. One time I went with my family on a camping trip. It was so much fun. We got to go kayaking, hiking, and biking. It was the best trip ever. I'm kind of running out of breath. Do you or your family ever go on trips? I think that's supposed to say and. Okay. And then, is there more than one thought? So the thing, one time I went on a family and we listed all the things, that was one thought. It was the best trip ever, kind of sounds like another thought to me. So I'm thinking I already know what's going on. Okay. I'm going to fix this because do you and, right? So then I went on a family trip. Okay, so I'm going to ask myself, does it make sense? On one time, I went with my family on a camping trip, and it was so much fun. We got to go kayaking, hiking, and bike riding. It was the best trip ever. So I think right now these are two separate thoughts. I think me listing the things I did, that's one thought. And then me saying it was the best trip ever, that's another thought. So I'm going to capitalize the I because the beginning sentence, I always have to have a capital letter. Best trip ever. Here I have a period. I could switch it out for an exclamation point to show that I'm excited. okay? And then, do you or your family ever go on trips? I'm noticing that I'm missing punctuation. There's nothing at the end here. Like, how do I know it's a question? How do I know it's not a statement? What's going on? Well, I'm going to ask myself, is it a question first off? Well, yeah, it is a question. It's asking, do you and your family? So, yeah, it's definitely a question. So I'm going to put a question mark, okay? Now let's look at this next one. I have a dog named Milo. I can breathe. There's a sentence period. He is the best dog in the world. He is so kind, fun, sweet, and just the best boy in the world. And, sorry, I breathed and I shouldn't have. It's already probably a problem. I have a dog named Milo. Period, breathe. Okay. He is the best dog in the world. He is so kind, sweet, and just the best boy in the world. And he can go off leash, and he stays right by me, and he loves to sleep on the couch, and he loves playing with his toys. I'm out of breath, right? I also noticed that there's a bunch of ands. There's so many ands. So if I'm looking at this thing right here, like so many ands. So I need to fix that. Okay, so now I'm going to keep on going. So there's a bunch of ands, so I probably need to get rid of that. And I'm running out of breath, so there's definitely some run-on sentences. He is the best dog in the world. I think that is its own thought. Okay? So I need a capital H, right? He is so kind, fun, and sweet. I think those go together. And just the best boy in the world. I think all that kind of fits together still. But I'm worried about these ands. This and right here, and just the best boy in the world, it makes sense to go with him being kind and fun and sweet. So I'm going to leave that one. But here I have another and. And he can go off leash. And he stays right by me. And he loves to sleep on the couch. And he also loves playing with his toys. I'm wondering if that's too many ands. Okay, so I'm thinking there's too many ands. So I'm going to get rid of this first one because what I had before is a complete thought. I'm going to put a capital H because he can go off leash and he stays right by me. He can go off leash is a complete thought, but he stays right by me, not complete. So I think that and needs to stay there between those two things. So I'm going to put a period. And he loves to sleep on the couch and he loves playing with his toys. Those seem like two separate things, right? So I'm going to put he loves to sleep on the couch and, or not and, he also loves to playing with his toys. So now I'm going to read it. I have a dog named Milo. I get to breathe. Yay. He is the best dog in the world. He is so kind, fun, sweet, and just the best boy in the world. He can go off leash and he stays right by me. He loves to sleep on the couch. He also loves playing with his toys. I think that's perfect. Like, I can breathe. It makes sense. There's not too many ands. And it's only one thought at a time. Okay, let's move on to this next one. Pickles are my favorite food. They are the only veggie that I will happily eat. They are good for you and so delicious. That's why you should eat pickles. Okay, well, are there a bunch of ands? No, there's not really a bunch of ands. Am I running out of breath? No, I'm not really doing that. Are there more than one thought in each sentence? Well, I'm going to think about this. Pickles are my favorite food. That's one thought. They're the only veggie I will happily eat. That's another. They are good and so delicious. Those two go together, so that's one other thought. That's why you should eat pickles. Yeah. Does it make sense? Yeah. So this one, I don't think there's anything that I need to change. Let's look at the next one. Pandas are bears. They eat lots of food, and they are fat, and they just kind of lay around all day. I like to lay around too. That's one reason why I like pandas. Do you like pandas? There's some things there. Am I running out of breath all the time? No. I noticed that there's quite a lot of ands, so I think I want to check that, okay? Pandas are bears. They eat lots of food, and they are fat. They just kind of lay around all day. And they just kind of lay around. That's a lot. Like, that's 3 ands in a row, or two ands in a row without a period. There should never be 2 ands without a period. So I'm thinking something's a little fishy here. So they eat lots of food. I think that's a complete thought. So I'm going to get rid of that and. Put a period, period, space, and my capital, the They are fat and they just lay around all day. I think I can also get rid of this and use a better word. I think I'm going to get rid of this and put because. This and put because. Because I think it will sound a little bit better. Because they just kind of lay around. I think they just lay around all day will also sound better. Okay, now let's see if that sounds better. Pandas are bears. They eat lots of food. They are fat because they just lay around all day. I like to lay around too. That's one reason why I like pandas. Do you like pandas? So there's a period here, but I notice this isn't capital, so I'm going to fix that because duh, have to have a capital at the beginning of the sentence. And I'm noticing I'm missing punctuation at the end. You see that? There's nothing there. So I need to put something there. Is it going to be a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point? Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure it out. Hopefully you said question mark. Duh. Okay, so we are going to now use what we just learned to edit my own writing about the Goliath grouper. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to present this, and I'm going to show you what I wrote, one slide at a time. The Goliath grouper. Did you know that Goliath groupers can live up to 37 years? T, that's a lot compared to your average goldfish, and the Goliath grouper is a type of fish. Goliath groupers can't be owned just because they became a protected species in 1993. So I was out of breath at one point, right? I didn't see a lot of ands. It made sense. I was just out of breath, except for that T. That T didn't make any sense, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. Did you know that Goliath groupers can live up to 37 years? That's a question, right? I'm going to put that in. Okay. Now I'm going to change that to a capital T. That's a lot compared to your average goldfish, and the Goliath grouper is a type of fish. There is a mistake in there. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what it is. Hopefully you said, well, there's two thoughts there, Miss Reinheimer. One is, that's a lot compared to your average goldfish, and the other is, the Goliath grouper is a type of fish. Together, they don't really make sense, but if I break them apart into two separate sentences, it will make more sense. So that is what I'm going to do, okay? Let's look at this next one. It says, I'm going to wait for, there we go. It can weigh more than some people, and some have reached 800 pounds and over 8 feet long. That's big. Okay. Not necessarily running out of breath, maybe a little bit. But I'm noticing that there was some ands in there. There's 1, 2 ands, and only 1 punctuation mark. That's a sign that something's wrong. So go ahead, pause the video, and see if you can figure out what is wrong with my writing. Okay, hopefully you said, well, you're right, Miss R, there's too many ands. It can weigh more than some people, and some have reached, well, I think those are two separate thoughts. So some have reached 800 pounds and over 8 feet long. That's big. I also think that's big should kind of be its own thought. So I'm going to add that. Okay, so now let's read it. Oops, I forgot to change the weighs. It can weigh more than some people. Some have reached 800 pounds and over 8 feet long. That's big. Okay, let's do this next one. Go ahead. I'm going to read it real quick, and then I will have you try to see if you can figure out what's wrong. Okay, I'm going to take a breath. You should be doing the same when you're going to read this. There are rumors that these fish have swallowed people whole, and that they do eat large fish and animals they find in the water, and they can eat such large things because they have such a huge mouth. I didn't really breathe. I'm kind of out of breath. Okay, I noticed a lot of ands. What did you notice? Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, and see if you can figure out where my mistakes are. Okay, hopefully you said, well, there are rumors that the fish have swallowed people whole. That's a thought or a statement. That is one thing. And that they do eat large fish. Well, that's not a rumor. That's the truth. They eat large fish. We know this. So I'm going to capitalize that. They do eat large fish and animals they find in the water. and they can eat such large things because of their mouth. I think talking about their mouth and talking about what they eat, those are two different thoughts. They're on the same subject, but they're two different thoughts. So I'm also going to add a period here. Okay? Now the last one. Okay? They live in large freshwater rivers and lakes. They also live in salt water. Pause the video and see if you can find any mistakes here. Hopefully you said, yeah, no, I can't find any. There's not really any mistake there. They're complete thoughts. There's not a bunch of ands. You're not running out of breath. So that is a complete thought. So now we've edited my writing. I want you to go back and edit yours. And you're going to do that by, oops, let's go to the end. No, stop it. Okay. Now it's the you do. So you're going to go to your writing. You're going to check for any run-on sentences by using the breath test. It's the thing where I try not to breathe until there's another punctuation mark. Making sure it's a complete thought and to make sure it makes sense. Also check for those ands. That's going to be part of the making sure it makes sense. If you're saying and if there's more than two ands in one sentence, it's a run-on sentence, okay? So go in and check on those things. If you have any questions, please ask myself or Mr. Davison.